Hello Legion, this is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. Let's play Surviving Mars. Surviving Mars is a highly anticipated colony simulator by Haemimont Games and published by Paradox. And it's coming out March 15th, but we get to play it right now. So thank you to those fine folks I just mentioned for the sneak peek. Quick game summary if you're just hearing about the game for the first time. This is a colony survival game, somewhat in the same vein as games like Banished, Planet Base, Kingdoms and Castles, and others like those. Instead of playing as a single character on Mars or controlling all of the colonists themselves as individual units like you would in a real-time strategy game, you play the role of a kind of omnipotent overlord or administrator. You control the construction and maintenance of colony buildings, as well as the flow of supplies and new colonists from Earth. You do get to decide when new colonists from Earth show up, but the colonists themselves and the drones, most of them, on the surface are automated once they arrive. I'm going to go into new game here. We'll talk about the settings in just a second, but think of it as playing as the colony instead of as the colonists. And that can be punishingly difficult, which is a hallmark of this genre. You have to help a growing population of human beings survive in their environment, which in this case is on Mars, without being able to give them direct instructions. Details are critical. Supply chains have to be carefully managed. Mistakes cost lives, and one oversight can set off a chain of failures that dooms an entire colony. And then you have to start all over. Or not, because you rage quit. But differently from the other games I just mentioned though, in Surviving Mars, you don't start with colonists right away. Rather realistically, you have to spend several days, they're called sols in this game, S-O-L, and we're going to be doing this in just a moment, building the colony from scratch, from nothingness, landing the rocket and starting the initial buildings, preparing it to sustain human life at all before you summon your first colonists, which is exactly how actual Martian colonization would likely work, given current tech. And I think that's a good example of the fresh take Surviving Mars is looking to bring to the table. A heightened sense of realism and immersiveness, which in turn will hopefully bring new complexities and more intricate challenges than we have seen in those other games. So this is going to be an early bird series on the channel called Nova Roma, or New Rome. I say early bird because it's going to be 7 a.m. Eastern time. This one aired at 9 because that's when the embargo ended, but the series will air daily at 7 a.m. for 20 episodes. And if we want to do more after that, we'll either do a new series or keep going with this one. Who knows? It's what we're all feeling like. Anyway, let me go ahead and jump in and show you what the initial mission setup looks like so you kind of know what all this stuff means. So mission sponsor is your initial choice, and it just has to do with, it's either a nation or a corporation, a company that is supporting the mission. And you can go from the top of the list, which is very easy, to the bottom, which is hard, or you can randomize it. We're going to go with somewhere in the middle, and I can't not select SpaceY. When I saw this for the first time, it's so cheeky, I couldn't not pick it, and we're going to do the same for the series. So SpaceY, they have 5 starting rockets, as opposed to, some of their contemporaries in this part of the list, which, Europe has 2, Church of the New Ark has 1. SpaceY, for some reason, has a bunch of reusable rockets that they can fire to Mars. Wonder why. And then the difficulty, as you can see, is normal. This is kind of a middle-of-the-road corporation as a mission sponsor. But you get 6 billion in funding, 6,000 million in funding, 200 beakers, I guess, of research per sol, as opposed to 400. So research, maybe not so much because they're a privately owned corporation. They're not an entire nation, or in this case, group of nations. But we have 75 starting applicants as well, so maybe somewhat fewer than some of the higher lists. So not a huge number of colonists to choose from initially, but there are ways to increase that. And then, of course, drone hubs start with additional drones. So it's almost like SpaceY is into the construction of things that drive themselves. Anyway, I'll stop. The drone hubs in the game, basically what they do is they help control the drones on the ground and determine how far they can go. So they help relay your instructions to the drones, as well as kind of set up a base area for the drones to operate. And then you have 50% cheaper advanced resources as well. So we're going to go with SpaceY. And then for the commander profile, this is kind of, I mentioned that you play as an omnipotent overlord or administrator. This kind of helps you customize the bonuses that you want to implement as a result of your particular imagined skill set. So there's a bunch of different choices and a bunch of different bonuses. I could go through all of them, but I'm going to start very simply. You might imagine, man, well, if you want to have a colony on Mars, you probably need water. Yeah, you do. And Hydro Engineer, I think, is a great beginner's choice. It's one that I've enjoyed the first couple of times I've played because it is challenging, by the way, to not know where your first water deposit is. But as a Hydro Engineer, you know where your first water deposit is. Not all of them, just one. But you know where it is. And domes also consume 25% less water because you're a Hydro Engineer. And you get water reclamation as a bonus tech. Now, tech works completely. It's a really interesting system that's a lot similar to another game I'm playing on the channel right now, and may or may not have some connections as far as the companies involved as well. But the technology in the game is a unique system we'll talk about later in this episode. But for now, I'll just say you get this water reclamation tech that unlocks, the ability to reduce water consumption in a dome. You build these spires in the middle of domes, and having that ability from the beginning is nice. I haven't built one yet, but yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about how much I've played in just a second. But the colony logo, we're going to go with Final Countdown, as you may have seen elsewhere. And then for the mystery, this is where I will mix things up for myself a little bit. As I started to hint a second ago, I haven't played terribly much. We've had a good time with this particular review code. It's not every day that when you get a review code for a game, there's a long period of time before the embargo, as they're called, lifts. So what that means is that we receive a review code if we are lucky enough to get one from a company and says, hey, if you'd like to play this game on your stream or channel, and you have like maybe a few days to play it or familiarize, or maybe even just one day before you have to put out content when the embargo lifts, when you're allowed to do so. And in this case, we've actually had like a week to play it. So I have played, and a lot of the other people you're seeing putting out videos have played, and there were a few people that were sponsored to put out videos earlier than the embargo because Paradox specifically asked them to do certain things, which was cool. But in this case, we've all had these codes for at least a week. I've had this one for, I feel like, 10 days now. So the nice thing about that is we've had a chance to play. That said, I haven't played too much of this game. I've played to where my first Martian child is born, pretty much, and not very far beyond that. So I wanted to save most of the new game experience for you guys, because I think part of the novelty of a Let's Play in a game like this is really experiencing the challenge for the first time and, seeing how you react to it, because this is a survival game. It might look like a strategy game on the surface, but this is, make no mistake, this is a survival game. So we're going to go with, to make this interesting for myself, we're going to go with a completely random mystery to kind of go with what I was saying. I haven't experienced, any of these yet. This is part of the storyline of the game. If you want a parallel for what a mystery is, think in terms of Subnautica, which I also play on the channel. Subnautica, it has this sandbox environment that you play in and survive in, but you also have this storyline that happens on the side. In Surviving Mars, you actually get to pick which story you want to be happening, and there's different stories. There's easy ones, normal ones, hard ones. So we might get a hard one, we might get an easy one. I'm going to go with random, just to mix things up and make things fun. So let's go next. Now this this screen can look really intimidating the first time you see it, but all you're doing is you're loading your first rocket. And you have to understand you have only so much cargo capacity and only so much money. So prefab buildings is something you'll see a lot. Stands for prefabricated. We're going to get 3 drone hubs to begin. Again, this controls drones and allocates them to different tasks, as I was describing a moment ago. And we have 3 of them loaded up on the rocket. So there's 3 actual buildings on this rocket that are already on board. And the drones can construct them, out of the prefabricated parts once they're on the surface. So then we have the RC Transport, the remote-controlled vehicle that transports resources. You use it to establish permanent supply routes or to gather resources from surface deposits. And this is one of the few drones that we do get direct control over, and we will of course have the option to gather these as well, or to land these on the surface as well. But we're going to have to wait for a future rocket to do that. And then finally, we will have 4 drones, and then 15 polymers, machine parts and electronics, basic supplies and maintenance components, and then 3 orbital probes. I'm actually going to reduce this is just a personal preference, and give myself 1 more drone. I'm tempted even to reduce it all the way down to 1 or 0 and give myself more drones. Notice we do have slightly more funding when we do that, because drones are not as expensive as orbital probes. 5 drones is 150 million, whereas 2 orbital probes is 200 million. But I don't need that many orbital probes to start. We'll be able to scan the sectors around us without probes. So just to begin with, we'll reduce that and go with 5 drones. Again, that's just a personal preference, and you'll see more of what the meaning of that decision is in just a second. Let's go next. And now for the really fun part, we actually get to select our landing spot on the surface. So you can select a predefined landing spot if you like, or you can click anywhere on the surface if you want to. It's really cool. And there's the Valles Marineris, which is this giant Grand Canyon-like feature on Mars. I say Grand Canyon-like, but it's continent-sized, so it's a little bit bigger than the Grand Canyon. But we can put a colony down in there. And as you can see, there's different levels of threat depending on where you select your spot. If you go way up towards the pole, there's the North Pole, there's a lot more cold wave threat. Out here, there's more of a dust storm threat because you're in plains. But if we go down in the Valles Marineris, we're fairly sheltered from a lot of that because we're in this valley, right? And it's fairly equatorial as well, so not a lot of threat from cold waves at all. As a matter of fact, I think when the threat is all the way down to the left, it might mean that there's no threat, or I assume it at least means a minimum threat, but it could mean that there's no threat whatsoever. But we'll find that out, won't we? So I guess I should just randomly pick a spot, shouldn't I? Ooh, hang on. A lot of concrete and water here. Let's see if we can get real... There we go. Look at that. So pretty high metals, concrete, and water at 3 south, 26 west. Can we reduce meteor threat at all? Right there. Hang on. No, I think I'll just go with that. You can also type, by the way, if you want an exact location, you can just do this. That took a little bit more effort than I thought, but you can, the exact topography will be the same if you want to share those coordinates or use them again on your own playthroughs. You can do that. You can, if you want to play along with me, you can type in 3S26W and it will go ahead and put you in the same spot as me. The resources will be different, but the topography will be identical, which is pretty cool. So if you, all you have to do is click custom to get that back up. So let's go ahead and land. I'm going to get interrupted in just a second, so I'll talk more about starting the colony and what we have to do in just a second, after this guy's done talking.
Welcome to Mars.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's all he says. I thought he was going to read the whole thing. So everyone at Mission Control is impatient to see the rocket touching down and unloading its precious cargo. Our remotely controlled eyes and hands on the Red Planet, the drones and rovers. Our goal is to secure a foothold for humanity by building the first Martian dome. This daunting endeavor will allow the brave pioneers, the founders, there's 10 of them by the way, to settle on Mars and prove that the colony is sustainable. But until then, we have to make sure the colony has enough construction resources, water, oxygen, and power. So, hint, that's what we're going to focus on. So, let's go ahead and close, and notice that we do have one spot selected that's already ready to go. We can zoom in, take a look at it if we like, and we can even kind of pan around and we can already look at the colony as it currently is. So this is actually a pretty nice starting spot that's scanned for us. Every time you land, you're going to have one randomly selected area from your coordinates scanned. Then you can use these orbital probes to scan additional sectors, like this. So I could go ahead and scan this sector with one of my orbital probes, which I just did. And I can also scan the one behind it. There we go. So actually, notice that I might have misspoke when I talked about the water resources being revealed. Oh no, never mind. I'm sorry. Because we scanned it, we do know one is there. But the hydro engineer, I didn't misspeak. The hydro engineer automatically knows where their first water deposit is without having to scan for it, which is pretty nice. But when you scan a sector, you'll find resources that way. I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. So let's go ahead and pick a landing spot for our rocket. I'm pressing R, by the way, to rotate the rocket to the exact orientation I want to land in. And I do want to take a moment to kind of look around, because we're going to land this thing here. Tell you what, let's land with our back to that somewhat. We can't really land. As you can see, it's hexagonal as far as how we can move our rocket. So I guess that'll work. That landing spot overlaps the deposit. I don't want to be exactly... That works. Let's go ahead and land right there. And we are underway. I need to select a sector to scan. We can manually scan sectors as well. I guess you want to watch this, don't you? I do too. Kind of important. Kind of a monumental occasion. The arrival of the first rocket for the Nova Roma colony. There's our drone that we can control, and then a bunch of little baby drones are about to come flying out. Now these are the ones we can't control. Again, like the colonists, can't control those. These guys are just going to do our bidding, but we can only give them indirect instructions for the most part, as far as what to build, and then they'll manage everything themselves. So you have to stay on top of their supplies and make sure they're in good shape. So we have 5 drones down, and they're going to go and start unloading stuff, but they need a place to unload things, don't they? So let's start with that. And let's give them some storages. We're going to give them some depots right away. What do I want to do? Let's put it perhaps here, Universal Depot. And now that that's down, look, they've immediately sprung to life, and the drones are going to start going in and grabbing resources. I put a metal depot there as well, because that's going to come in handy. One thing I've noticed in my initial play of this game is that I'm going to play on speed 1 for now, but once you kind of know what you're doing as a player, and once you guys kind of know what I'm doing as the player, and once you're kind of following along with the series, we're going to play on speed 3 like a lot. It's very easy to play on fast speed and not lose too much track of what's going on. But notice that because these supply depots are down, they're unloading the rocket. The rocket does have those resources on it that we arranged to be on it. We do have an anomaly here that we need to scan, but we don't quite have the right type of rover to scan that, so we're not quite ready to do that yet. However, we do have this guy, and this guy we can directly control, and he is a good resource collector over and above what these guys can do. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and give him the instruction to head over to this metal deposit, surface metal deposit right here. He's going to load from there, and I want him to unload on the metal depot. And he is going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and go to speed 2, but we're not going to go to speed 3 this episode, I don't think. I would like to maintain a pretty decent starting speed so that we know what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and select Detective Research now. The research system is completely randomized, a lot like Stellaris. I believe I hinted at this when I was talking about the tech that we started with. We do, of course, have access to water reclamation already. It's been researched, so that's nice. We can go ahead, let's look at what our first options are. Hygroscopic vaporators, which is a biotech. Water production increased by 50%. That's actually not a bad tech to start with. So this one would mean rockets and shuttles require less fuel, same research cost. RC transport harvest resources faster, and its maximum storage is increased by 15. Extractor upgrade increases production by 25, but also increases power consumption by 10. So this is for resources, which we're not going to be doing too much of that yet. And then scientists and botanists have 10% performance when working on their specialty. I'm going to go with this first. Having increased water production firsthand before we even have colonists land on Mars is a fantastic idea. So we're going to start with that, and we have to select a sector to scan, which is quite straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to scan that one, and then queue up these. And that's as many as you can do. I think you can queue 4, and you're scanning 1, so a total of 5 at once. And we have no more prompts on the screen. I do have hints turned off, so the game is not going to yell at me about any particular reminders. But you do have hints up here normally when you're playing, so that you can generally remember what you're doing. Once you have got your feet wet a little bit, I think it's good to have them turned off, because they are fairly large hints. Like, they take up a lot of space on the screen. So anyway, we have 3 drone hubs here that are prefabricated, which we can build anytime we want. First thing we need, though, before we build anything else, is we need to go ahead and make sure that there's going to be power on Mars, right? So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to start just a solar farm kind of right here. And I'll put, let's be a little ambitious. We're going to go ahead and put 3 panels down. They cost 4 metal to build, and they require 1 maintenance. Just 1 metal for maintenance is what that means. So as long as we have plenty of metal, which you can see our drone here is loading up. He's got 15 already. Now we're waiting on more metal. One of the reasons these guys aren't doing anything anymore is that the only metal deposit within the range of the rocket ship, which is the only drone hub at the moment, is being harvested by these guys. So what I would have to do is find another metal deposit. I don't think that's one. I think they should be clickable. So hello, meteor. Just barely missed that. That's not a metal deposit. They can be somewhat hard to spot, but the metal is also more reflective. This game is gorgeous. It is more reflective. By the way, you can tell it's the middle of the night, by the way. You can see the day meter at the bottom there. That's not a metal deposit. So it's actually, the area where we started is pretty light on surface metals. Once the main drone stops loading, it should have plenty from that 1 deposit. And another thing we can definitely do is we can... Yeah, there's lots of metals there, so we can go ahead and put down one of the drone hubs a little bit closer to that. But what I would really like to do is wait to establish a drone hub until there's a little bit more reason to do so. Well, actually, hang on. Technically, we have a water deposit over there. There's reason to put one there. Okay, good. How much do you have? You have 30 metals. Okay. So he is headed back with our first load of metals, and he'll drop it right on top of the metals depot. And you'll notice they immediately go to work building. No direct instructions. They're doing all this on their own. They know where the metal is. It's within range of their command center, so they're doing all of it automated. And now the first solar panels are live and gathering power. But notice that they're all yelling at me that they're not connected to anything because I haven't, well, given them anything to be connected to. One other thing I want to go ahead and build. I want to have some... Do I want to have them right behind, or do I want to build it somewhat differently? Maybe I'll have a wind farm over here, like in a slightly different spot. We're going to queue up a couple of wind turbines, but we're not going to be able to do too much as far as building wind turbines. Actually, we will, because we do have some wind turbines. Oh, we do have some concrete already available to us, but we need more concrete from the surface. And thankfully, there's concrete right there. If you're wondering what this giant yellow patch is, that's a concrete deposit. And that, of course, is a water deposit. So we're going to have two extractors relatively close to one another. I do need to go ahead and lay down some power cables so that buildings stop yelling at me. But actually, before I do that, let's select our location for that concrete extractor. So again, we have to rotate it, very much like we did the rocket. It looks like we can just have it... No. Why'd you do that? I liked it when you were that way. There. No! Oh, interesting. Clicking the middle mouse button rotates. I didn't actually know that. Okay, no cable connection. I know that. Now, I think I probably... Actually, no, I do want to rotate you. We're going to have you, like... That looks pretty good. Yeah, so that's going to get one portion of the deposit, and then there'll be more of the deposit over here. So this is actually a fairly large deposit of concrete to land next to. It's probably the largest that I've landed by in the game. And I've done a couple of trial colonies, not just one or two. So, well, a couple literally means two, but I've done more than a couple. I've done a handful. Let's put it that way. So let me go ahead and put down some cables. And again, it's all completely automated. We're going to jump right to it. Our second sol is ending. But once the power is up, we'll be in better shape. They're also in the process of getting these built. But they're prioritizing these things. Okay, we are now collecting concrete. Let me also go ahead and... Yeah, there's no power now because we don't have a power collector yet. I'm trying not to move too quickly because I know that a lot of you might be watching for the first time, especially if you are a channel viewer, but not necessarily... You haven't necessarily heard of Surviving Mars already and you didn't find the video that way. I guess I'll go ahead and put down some collectors here. What you want collectors for is where excess power can be stored during the night, whether it's collected from wind turbines or not. And power cables from the wind turbines, I guess I will have... What can I do? Yeah, I can totally do that. Works for me. See, I want this to be somewhat symmetrical if I can manage it. Yes, I'm that particular. I guess symmetrical would have been, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. So instead I'll do this. It's not perfectly symmetrical, that's fine. Just, if I thought a little bit more about where I placed those, it would have mattered, but it's okay. So, we're going to wait for these to go up. I'll go ahead and go to speed 3 just for a moment because I think it's pretty clear what we're waiting on. Here's our second shipment of metals from that resource deposit. It's a large resource deposit, so it's pretty handy that we're getting those in. And I do want to go ahead and put down, because this is fairly vanilla, there needs to be a dumping site near this concrete depot, because it's constantly going to put out waste rock. And I assume there is, at some point, a use for the waste rock. See, there it is. Until you put a site for it, it's just going to kind of unload in a very ugly way. But what you're doing is kind of providing a sense of organization for all this. We do have one wind turbine up. 2 more are going to go up momentarily. And with that being done, I guess the next order of business would be to go ahead and get a water extractor set up. Now, we don't have to have it directly over that thing. As long as that blue is within this kind of highlight, we'll be good to go. So let's see. I think I like it... I don't want to have it overlapping the deposit if I can help it.
Sector scanned. Anomaly found.
Nice. Let's pause for a moment and see where the anomaly is. Okay, so there's a couple more. There's 2 anomalies, actually, that have been discovered in this new sector. So we're going to take a look over here. So this is an anomaly, and this is... I'm always curious... Okay, this could help us discover new technologies. That's what the key stands for. I've researched both of these before, but I've never actually taken the time to look at what the difference between the different icons is. Again, haven't played a whole lot myself yet. An underground deposit of rare metals can be exploited by a rare metals extractor staffed by colonists. That's handy that we found that there. That's part of how we'll make money, by the way. Mentioned that earlier. Kind of an important thing. Okay, so with that being done, we definitely need the water extractor set up, and we also need pipes. Let's go back up to speed 2. And we definitely want to have... All right, that's blocked. So we're not going to do pipes that way. We're going to do pipes a different way. Nope, not far enough yet. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and just do this. There we go. Not too much method to my madness yet. I just want there to be kind of a central location where all the resources are going, and I'll determine where the actual domes are going to be later on. But having the pipe work to bring everything back towards one location, to where the buildings aren't too spread out. Not that there is a bad thing about buildings being spread out, especially in meteor-heavy areas. Alright, so it looks like we're almost done. You might be able to see what I was saying about Speed 3. I mean, it's very easy to see how, you know, in these early stages, you might think, well, let's go up to Speed 3 and plow through these initial moments. But for those of you who are completely new to the game, have never seen it before, I don't want to rush through this stuff. This is a pretty big deal. Also, let's make sure that is within, yeah, it's all within range, so we're good to go. I don't have to build any of my drone command centers yet. However, I do want a water tower, and I'm okay with having it, let's see, yeah, I'm totally alright with having it near, I don't want it overlapping the deposit, but maybe if we can have it back here, at the bend in the pipes, perhaps? If that'll work. That's close enough, let's put it there. And then we need to have some oxygen prepared to build that dome. Our primary goal is to build a dome on Mars for the first time. So that's where the colonists are actually going to, live. They're not just going to walk around out here and suffocate to death. That wouldn't be a very successful colony. Now, would it? So, what we're going to do is we're going to build what's called a MOXIE. Now, this thing pulls oxygen, I assume, from... I'm not sure where it produces the oxygen from. It just says it produces oxygen, so don't ask questions. It makes oxygen. And that's where we're going to get our oxygen from. So let's go ahead and put you here. And this thing is saying there's no cable connection, which is a dirty, dirty lie, because I can see the connection right there. Or it might be, I think what that's saying is that it's not connected to a water producer, because this thing has yet to be built. But they're working on it. Let's go ahead and go back up to Speed 3, because we've got some of our essential stuff underway. The MOXIE is ready. And let's go ahead and... I guess oxygen tank might be best on the opposite side of the pipe here. So the pipes carry both water and oxygen. They're not just pipes for water, if that was not clear a moment ago. And can I... No, I can't. I can't actually put it on top of the anomaly. I'm sure once the anomaly's researched, I'll be fine. I'm going to go with just the 2 tanks for now. And then we do need to, of course, power this equipment. So let's throw some cables down. So actually, one of the really cool things about this game is you can have power cables that run underneath. So we are going to do the same with that thing. And they need to build the cables, but once the cables are up, this thing will start extracting water, and we'll be good to go as far as our basic production on Mars. We're still scanning that sector. We have another water spot as well, but again, that's slightly outside of the range of the rocket. So we're going to need to build a drone hub for these guys to know what they're doing. We probably will build it somewhere out here to where it's in range. If you want to see exactly what the range of these things are, I'll show you really quickly. We're not going to do it just yet. We'll probably do it next episode, but... Drone hub, where are you? I'm just looking at you. Where are you, drone? There you are. Yeah, it's actually pretty decent range. Not quite... it might be identical to the rocket's range. Seems like it is. So if we put it, like, even just out here, it would still be completely in range of the colony, as well as in range of some of the other stuff that I need to collect. And also, that's not... See, none of these are collectible resources. So these are just surface rocks. But that's one unfortunate spot about where we've landed here. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of surface metal right nearby. Just a lot of rock. See, that's not surface metal. And I think our drone is done as well. Yeah, he's paused. So he's done all he can. Is he charged? Yeah, he's charged at least, which is nice. So notice that we are producing a lot of power. You can check the colony stats. I'll take a look at the resource overview before we end here. We're producing a power surplus of 18, oxygen surplus of 2, and a water surplus of 4. So we're off to a good start. In the next one, we are going to build a dome, most likely, and maybe even summon our first colonist, or at least summon another rocket with some more supplies so we can look into some of these anomalies. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this first episode, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. New episodes in Nova Roma are going to be coming out, like I said, every day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time for the first 20, and then we'll take a break and then maybe do 20 more later, or 20 more in Surviving Mars once we kind of maybe know more about the game. It might be worth restarting. You never know. And Now that I'm thinking about it, because we're playing a colony survival game where things can go disastrously wrong, don't worry. If the colony fails, I will restart within those first 20 episodes. If it gets to that point. I don't want it to get to that point, but I definitely will. It's not like the colony will fail and that will just be the end of the series. So I'll definitely, do a lesson learned and we can all laugh about it and start again fresh. So thanks for watching again. Comments are always welcome. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.